Welcome to the Dosa Dadcast, a men's ministry podcast dedicated to the strength, health, and emotional well-being of fathers raising children with special needs. Here, we create a space of encouragement, belonging, and real stories from dads who understand what it means to be on special assignment. Welcome to The Quiet Battles, a 10-week Dosa Dadcast series that takes us into the private struggles men face but rarely speak about. These are the battles fought in silence, the moments where strength feels heavy and honesty feels risky. Today, we begin with the truth most dads know but almost never say out loud. Moms cry, dads go into fix-it mode, but inside, most of us feel fear we don't know how to express. We carry it quietly. We shoulder it alone. We push forward because we think that's what strong men do. This episode is for the father who keeps holding everything together while wondering if anyone sees the weight he's carrying. You're not weak, you're not failing, and you're definitely not alone. Today, we're stepping into those quiet battles together with honesty, compassion, and brotherhood. Well, hey, Jeremy, thanks for hopping on the Dadcast tonight. We're going to start a 10-series episode, and it's really a theme of the quiet battles. It's like a father's journey through disability, faith, and family, something that both of us, we're pretty well versed in. But the goal here is really to help dads open up. And like this first episode, I called it The Day Everything Changed, how men really process a diagnosis. And what I want to know, first and foremost, is what do you do to try and fix things whenever Heidi is crying?
Try and fix things when Heidi is crying. I think you're right, Billy, in the fact that men really do just inherently have this desire to fix everything. They hear or see something and it's an immediate like, okay, what can I do to change the situation? And that's really what it feels like we go into a lot of times. And so, um, I know for my family, if there's those moments where I can tell that Heidi is very distraught over something that's happened or something that was shared or a conversation that we had with the doctor or therapist or something that's bothersome. um Man, I feel like you just want it's like this internal struggle that I personally have of like, okay, I know there's a lot of things I could say that might comfort her, but also know that sometimes not saying or doing anything can be the most comforting thing, in the fact of like just embracing her,
Mm-hmm.
just having that moment of like, hey, this is not sexual, this is not anything more than just, I am with you, I stand with you, I support you, I am experiencing feelings too, I just want to be available. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of times when it comes to marriages, and especially for those of us that are married and raising a child, whether it's biological or foster or adoption or whatever the scenario is, just being supportive and being present, I feel like a lot of times is more than enough. Because I'll be the first one to admit to you, Billy, that there's been times where I've responded with, okay, I gotta say the right thing. I've gotta really, I gotta turn this ship around, like what can we do to really change course here? And a lot of times the things that we say in the moment aren't that beneficial. Um
Yeah.
and so I,
It's more open mouth, insert foot.
that's yes. And man, I mean, we should all raise our hand. We're all guilty. We've all
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
more than once, and so it looks different, it looks different for everyone. And I will say too, I mean, just from the emotional side, I see a lot of different responses. You know, uh, just both from the men and the women. And so every marriage, every relationship, every dynamic is so unique and individual.
Yeah.
What's highly effective for one may not be at all for another. It might actually be the thing that sparks the argument rather than the thing that actually soothes it and calms it. And so just depending on those dynamics, depending on the, um, just different characteristics of the individuals that are involved. And so I think again, just looking at it from over time, we have to get to a place where we understand our spouse. We have to understand how they respond to things, why they respond to things, and how they react to our understanding and responses, and kind of navigate that in a way that's most beneficial.
All right. So let me ask you this. Okay. Think back to the day you got Layman's diagnosis. Okay. Was your first instinct the need to be the strong one in the family?
I want to say yes. I want to say yes to that, Billy. And I word it that way in the fact of we are always told that we're supposed to be the strong one. We're supposed to be the one that holds it together. But I also think that there's moments in time where just breaking down and being vulnerable and just recognizing that, hey, we don't always have our act together,
Mm-hmm.
is, in my opinion, is okay. When we got the diagnosis for our son, it was a little different because he had such extensive birth trauma. Um, I mean, a lot of what he dealt with, he faced from the second that he was delivered. But because of the rarity of his syndrome, we didn't actually get his diagnosis until he was 13.
All right.
And so we had you know over a decade of time where we were just treating and caring for him the best we knew how, with really no information to base it on other than what we could physically see. And so once we actually received that diagnosis, it was just a little different dynamic. It was a little different for us, and just how we processed it. It was like, okay, some of the things that we've been focused on over the last 10, 12 years really isn't that important, because there's not there's not a lot of opportunity for change there. But there's other things where it's like, okay, we need to have heavier emphasis on this. And so, for me, in that moment of just trying to process that, and trying to process that with my wife, I definitely wanted to be strong in the moment, but also just being vulnerable with her, and letting her see me in a way that I know that she appreciated, and just the genuineness and the realness and the rawness of just, this is difficult.
You have this internal fear as well, right?
Oh, for sure. Hmm.
I mean, as a dad, I'm looking at a fear of failure. What ifs, and I'm sure the what ifs plagued you as you and Heidi were kind of starting to navigate this. I know Tara and I were like, what if this? What if that? But for me, and I want to ask you specifically, what was one of your what ifs in the failure area? Because there are plenty of opportunities for us to what if ourselves right out of what God has for us.
Oh,
you
it's so
know,
dangerous. It's so dangerous.
yeah. So what was a what if failure moment that was a complete and total lie that you were believing at the moment?
Well, I mean, I know for him, one of the big things has been just mobility. And for me, the whole what if what if there is something that I could have done differently for him that would have totally changed the outcome on his ability to be um, ambulatory. At that just for me was a big one. It's like, okay, we're doing physical therapy. We've got this, we've got that. He's doing stretches, he's walking, through the house with assistance. He's going to therapy every single week for 13 years. But for me, it was kind of that. Well, what if there's something different that I should be doing or that I could have done that would have changed his outcome, and I just hadn't taken the time to research it or to understand it or to even know it's out there. um I think it is. I think the what ifs are just so dangerous. I mean, because it's so easy to look, and I even, with my son being a teenager now, I look back and go, man, I see where I'd done that just so many times, Billy. It's like you just roll through 1,000 scenarios in your head of, well, what if we do this? Well, what if we do this? Well, what if we don't do
Right.
this? Well, what happens if this happens? And what if we do this? And it's like, you know what? I just have to step back, pause, and just say, you know what? I just need to trust that deep down I sense what is best for him, and I'm going to move forward with the things that I do know, and I do know that him going to physical therapy has been exponentially beneficial to him.
Mhm.
And I just can't go there. I just can't go there.
Yeah. I mean, you got to balance some strength and vulnerability here, but not just for Heidi, but also for you.
Mm.
Because like you said, the what ifs, that can lead you to isolation. It could lead you to burnout. It could lead you to really a number of things. And that's really what research even shows, is that men will isolate. They'll throw themselves into work because they think, maybe if I just do this more, maybe, and I'm sure you've seen that.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. The work is a huge one. Work is an absolute huge way for men to isolate because it's so easy, right? I mean, our wives know that we're, for many of us, and this isn't the case for everyone that's listening to this, but for a lot of men, they are the ones that go uh, and earn for the family, and so for them to work late or work extra is like, look what I'm doing for the family, but it's also interesting the fact that I can tell you just from multiple conversations and conversations within our groups of how many guys do actually use the diagnoses and the fear of things to isolate to the point of like, well, you know what, I can't do that this weekend because my son's got a really low immune system, and if I take him out in public he could get sick and he could be hospitalized. I mean, those are the types of conversations I hear all the time, and so sometimes it is even like using your son or daughter as the excuse of reasons to isolate and not participate in different activities. And some of those are viable. I mean, we have to recognize, like, there are very specific cases where kids are immune compromised. They, whether it's ordered by the doctors or it's just this overwhelming burden that a parent feels in protecting their child from a certain season or certain health challenges. But a lot of times it really is an excuse, right? It's just a way to say,
So
hey, really shouldn't do that.
do you think that that's kind of we kind of put ourselves on that island sometimes? Because I know, like, we have felt like at times, like, oh, well, we've lost friends, we've lost this, but is it really that sometimes? Because I know there's going to be times for, like, in the autism world. I think we had this conversation with Sean a few weeks ago, but it was like people just don't kind of grasp, sometimes that. And so I get that. There's those family members, there's those friends that you do withdraw from because even though they're trying, maybe it's just they can't get it. But then to the extreme, we probably do more of getting in the boat and paddling out to the island ourselves and building the campfire and saying, "Hey, this is our home." You know, I feel like that would be easy to do.
Oh, I know you and I were having a conversation off topic about ferries and ferrying out to places, literally as you were saying that, I was sitting here picturing, me being surrounded by my friends and saying, hey, there's this island out here. I got this ticket. I'm gonna go out on this ferry tomorrow and go, check it out. And they're like, really? Really? Why would you do that? Like, we're going to do this thing. And no, I think I'm gonna go. I want to go see what this is like over here. And we do, like, we get the ticket and then we go get on the ferry, and all of our friends are like, well, why would you do that? What are you doing? Where are you going? Like, why don't you come with us? Why don't you say, no, I really want to go check this out. And we get on the ferry and then we go out there and we get there and we're like, hey, this is kind of nice. This is kind of cool. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
a nice little break from all the chaos that is going on with doctors and nurses and therapists. But then as time goes on, we see the ferry going back and forth, and we're just still out there going, I wonder what all my friends are doing right now. I know that they want me over there, but I'm not over there. And we can get back on the ferry and we can go back to the mainland, but yet we choose not to. And we kind of are in this, like, man, woe is me. I'm out here on this island alone.
Mm-hmm.
But we're the ones that actually we took ourselves there.
I know it's hey, it's a one way ticket, but it's really a round trip ticket.
It's
You
a
know, we
round
just have
trip
to.
ticket. We just have kept the other one in our back pocket, and we've just
Yeah.
chosen not to use it.
So, in the spirit of fixing things, did you try to fix? You know, you talked about the ambulatory issues. Did you try to fix things early on? You know, what did you try? How did you try to fix something? Just give me one example of how you're like, I'm going to fix this. I am Landon's dad. I'm going to fix this.
Yeah, man, there is just that internal that internal part where it's like, okay, if I can just put a little bit more effort into this, if I can just spend a little bit more time, if I can just research a little bit more, if I can just have just the right conversation with the right person that knows the right person that might have a solution, and so sometimes I feel like we can really go down this trail of just consuming ourselves with research, which um, which in some ways is really, really good, right? I mean, we want to research ways to help our kids, but I also think that sometimes we can go down this rabbit hole of, you know doing this, doing that. What if we can try this or try that? Is this a solution? Can this help him? and
Yeah, yeah.
and the you know okay, yes, I understand that, we have his walker, but what about arm braces, or what about this, or what about that? Like, what's the next step to where he's able to completely walk on his own, any distance, anywhere? And for me, like, it's like, as silly as it is, it's like, okay, I want him to be able to respond to this. I want him to be able to use his feet this way because, man, I'd love to see him, ride a go-kart. It's like, I had a go-kart. I want him to ride a go-kart. If he can get this down, if he can get this figured out, then he can go do this thing. And that thing is really more for me than it is for him. But it's like chasing that thing. And I just feel like sometimes we can go too far with, and again, it goes back to this whole fear. It's like the fear of this not being, not going the way that I want it to, or not going the way I think it should.
Right.
And then we just get so deeply, like, down this trail of, I'm gonna find the solution. I'm gonna find the fix it all, you know, um, plan or process that's gonna, you know, be the cure of the century. And
Hmm.
And
Well,
sometimes you have to just step back and recognize that, okay, we can consume our entire day, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to end up the way that we want it to end up.
well, yeah, and that alone, right there, what you're talking about, just consuming and finding and digging and just the constant, I got to fix this. That's really what puts us out on that island, if you think about it,
Yeah.
because all at that point, our kids become our whole like world. Sometimes even we ignore our spouses. Sometimes we ignore our friends. Sometimes we even ignore our jobs to the point to where like we just are consumed with this one thing. But in the grand scheme, that one thing is part of a much bigger plan for our lives. But we've got to be able to bring some people along for the ride, and come back from the island, if you will. So, in the spirit now of vulnerability, what is something that if there's a dad listening to this right now and he's on that island, okay, he's kind of exhausted as fix it, he can't fix it, he's at that point of isolation, but we talk about balancing the strength with vulnerability. What do you tell this dad that's on the island, that's fearful, that is proud, that is also extremely scared? How do you, what's the message here? What do we, what is it you think from your experience with talking with men in these positions?
I think,
This dad needs to hear.
well, there's absolutely a moment in time when you're on that island and you realize that your life is in jeopardy. You've stayed there long enough that now you've exhausted all of your resources, and you've isolated to the point that you recognize that you are in a life-threatening situation. And I don't know if most men realize that what they're facing could and most probably is a life-threatening situation, whether it's to them or to their marriage, to the relationship with their kids. And so my statement to that would be, you cross that threshold and you realize, oh, I'm in serious trouble. I've got to do something. What do you immediately do? You call out for help, and that might be, it's the flashing the mirror on the beach, when the plane flies by, or you start a fire and you're sending up smoke signals, or you've got a flare gun. Well, I mean, there's a whole list of ways, right, that when you're out there that you can signal for help. There has to be that moment in time where you recognize that right now is my opportunity to get help. I cannot do this on my own. I cannot do this alone. And you never know that there might be a moment in just minutes away where that person's coming by, you know, that would see you, but you have to make your presence known. You have to put yourself out there and say, I'm over here. Help me. I I got to do something different. And so, I mean, I think for me, that's it. It's signaling for help, and having a clear enough signal to where the people in your life will recognize it clearly, because we're always really good at being, real kind of, what would it be? Like, we're real kind of subtle with our, like, I kind of want help, but not really sure I do, and this needs to be a bold step out in faith and say, I'm in trouble, and I trust that there's somebody out there that can step into my life, step into the situation, and help draw me back out of this, and walk alongside me, and uh, share life together.
Did you have that moment?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What's one thing that you should have voiced sooner, uh, when you were in that moment?
One thing I should have voiced sooner when I was in that moment. I would almost say that I don't know that it's something I would have voiced sooner, but maybe something I would have better understood about myself. And sometimes it takes other people to speak into your life that know your personality well enough to know, hey, that's not like you. What's going on? You know, I mean, we all have people in our lives where we can look and we can just tell when they're just having an off day. And everyone has an off day, and that's okay. But it's when it's consecutive days after days after days of those off days
Mhm.
that's when you recognize, okay, there's more to this than what I thought. Um, and kind of to your conversation of just the trying to fix it, not being able to fix it, dealing with the fears and the anxieties and the isolation, and these are the things that can lead men into a state of depression. And I think that's what my answer to that would be is knowing yourself well enough to recognize that when you're in a place that you shouldn't be.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
It does make sense. And yeah, I got a cough again. And I think that's really critical. And I think that back on the island, if you will, you've reached that point of kind of you've exhausted your resources. It takes some strength to actually ask for help, though. Um, but what's great about what we do here at DOSA is we have men that walk in this same path. I think I say this I've said this every episode is that each one of our kids has a different diagnosis. Some of them are the same, but each person, each child is different. But the trauma that we go through as men, it's the same.
Well, picture this for me, Billy. Let's go back and picture that island that we're on, and we get to the place and we recognize, okay, I need to do something. I need help. And you think, you know what? I see a lot of these flight patterns, and it looks like they're all flying over this side of the island. I'm going to gather myself up, and I'm going to make the journey around this corner over to this other part of the island because I think I have a stronger chance of getting help there. And what we soon discover is that once we do that, we actually were not on the island alone the entire time. There is a group of men who were all scattered around this island, assuming that they were there alone. But what they realize is that they're not alone. And they get around the corner, to the place of seeking help, and they realize there's a whole group of men over there that are actually looking for help too. And now what they find out is those men are facing the exact same things. So now they've just built a support system. They've just built a community just by simply starting the journey.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Dadcast and the beginning of the series, The Quiet Battles. It's a series dedicated to the struggles men carry quietly, especially fathers raising children with special needs. These conversations matter because they remind us that strength isn't silent and we're never meant to fight alone. For dads on special assignment, this ministry exists, and this podcast is one part of that mission to remind you that you are seen, valued, and supported. The Quiet Battles series is designed to walk with you through fears, pressures, and the emotions and moments you've been carrying in silence, and we're just really getting started. If today's episode stirred something in you, we want to invite you into deeper community through DOSA Connect. It's our virtual small group that meets the first and third Tuesday of each month. It's where men, just like you, find encouragement, brotherhood, and a place to finally breathe. You can sign up or learn more at dosausa.org. Now, if this conversation helped you, encouraged you, or gave you language for a struggle you've kept inside, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this episode. Your simple action could be the thing that helps another dad realize he's not fighting his quiet battles alone. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time as we continue this journey together.